You got. I was watching something interesting today. We've already talked about this and seen this. It's interesting. I want you guys to maybe you guys will not think this is interesting, or maybe you'll think it's very interesting. I want you guys to watch this. I think this is cool to think about. I think this is one of the things that actually made me think. I think it's cool.
Imagine you're watching a runaway trolley barreling down the tracks straight towards 5 workers who can't escape. You happen to be standing next to a switch that will divert the trolley onto a second track.
It gets more elaborate. Just wait for it.
That track has a worker on it too, but just one. What do? Do you sacrifice one person to save 5? This is the trolley problem, a version of an ethical dilemma that philosopher Philippa Foot devised in 1967. It's popular because it forces us to think about how to choose when there are no good choices. Do we pick the action with the best outcome, or stick to a moral code that prohibits causing someone's death? In one survey, about 90% of respondents said that it's okay to flip the switch, letting one worker die to save 5. And other studies, including a virtual reality simulation of the dilemma, have found similar results. These judgments are consistent with the philosophical principle of utilitarianism, which argues that the morally correct decision is the one that maximizes well-being for the greatest number of people.
Yeah, that's
the 5 lives outweigh 1, even if achieving that outcome requires condemning someone to death. But people don't always take the utilitarian view, which we can see by changing the trolley problem a bit.
Just wait.
This time, you're standing on a bridge over the track as the runaway trolley approaches.
And then what?
Now there's no second track, but there is a very large man on the bridge next to you. If you push him over, his body will stop the trolley, saving the 5 workers, but he'll die. To utilitarians, the decision is exactly the same. Lose 1 life to save 5. But in this case, only about 10% of people say that it's okay to throw the man onto the tracks.
That's crazy.
Our instincts tell us that deliberately causing someone's death is different than allowing them to die as collateral damage. It just feels wrong, for reasons that are hard to explain. This intersection between ethics and psychology is what's so interesting about the trolley problem. The dilemma and its many variations reveal that what we think is right or wrong depends on factors other than a logical weighing of the pros and cons.
I think there's more.
For example, men are more likely than women to say it's okay to push the man over the bridge. So are people who watch a comedy clip before doing the thought experiment. And in one virtual reality study, people were more willing to sacrifice men than women.
Okay,
Researchers have studied the brain activity of people thinking through the classic and bridge versions. Both scenarios activate areas of the brain involved in conscious decision-making and emotional responses. But in the bridge version, the emotional response is much stronger.
We saw videos about this.
So is activity in an area of the brain associated with processing internal conflict. Why the difference? One explanation is that pushing someone to their death feels more personal, activating an emotional aversion.
Guys, think about this. These things, when people code things like AI, like automation of things or whatever, what kind of settings you put in there? I mean, you have to put settings on. You have to make the robot make decisions. You literally have to code it to make decisions or whatever. So what do you put in there?
To killing another person.
I think it's philosophical, isn't it?
Because we know it's still the logical choice. Trolleyology has been criticized by some philosophers and psychologists. They argue that it doesn't reveal anything because its premise is so unrealistic that study participants don't take it seriously.
Fuck off.
But new technology is making this kind of ethical analysis more important than ever. For example, driverless cars may have to handle choices like causing a small accident to prevent a larger one. Meanwhile, governments are researching autonomous military drones that could wind up making decisions of whether they'll risk civilian casualties to attack a high-value target. If we want these actions to be ethical, we have to decide, in advance, how to value human life and judge the greater good. So researchers who study autonomous systems are collaborating with philosophers to address the complex problem of programming ethics into machines.
But
Which
how?
goes to show that even hypothetical dilemmas can wind up on a collision course with the real world.
Fuck, there was a follow-up about this that was really good. It's another video. Oh, there was this one. This one. At this I'm done. It's interesting. Watch it. It's kind of a follow-up, but not really.
This is a thought experiment. Let's say at some point in the not-so-distant future, you're barreling down the highway in your self-driving car, and you find yourself boxed in on all sides by other cars. Suddenly, a large, heavy object falls off the truck in front of you. Your car can't stop in time to avoid the collision, so it needs to make a decision. Go straight and hit the object, swerve left into an SUV, or swerve right into a motorcycle. Should it prioritize your safety by hitting the motorcycle, minimize danger to others by not swerving, even if it means hitting the large object and sacrificing your life, or take the middle ground by hitting the SUV, which has a high passenger safety rating? So what should the self-driving car do? If we were driving that boxed-in car in manual mode, whichever way we'd react would be understood as just that, a reaction, not a deliberate decision. It would be an instinctual panicked move with no
okay, Twitter would not approve of what's going to happen next.
Forethought or malice. But if a programmer were to instruct the car to make the same move, given conditions it may sense in the future, well, that looks more like premeditated homicide. Now, to be fair, self-driving cars are predicted to dramatically reduce traffic accidents and fatalities by removing human error from the driving equation. Plus, there may be all sorts of other benefits: eased road congestion, decreased harmful emissions, and minimized unproductive and stressful driving time. But accidents can and will still happen, and when they do, their outcomes may be determined months or years in advance by programmers or policymakers. And they'll have some difficult decisions to make. It's tempting to offer up general decision-making principles like minimize harm, but even that quickly leads to morally murky decisions. For example, let's say we have the same...
Dude, your automated cars will save like 90% of the accidents, 95% of the accidents, hundreds of thousands a year. But the one time when the AI bugs in and one person dies, oh my god! AI bad, AI wrong, computer bad. It's like, dude,
but now
man,
there's a motorcyclist wearing a helmet to your left and another one without a helmet to your right. Which one should your robot car crash into? If you say the biker with the helmet...
Because people would I think because people would rather by themselves die by the mistakes of their own actions than by the predetermined one of something they can't control.
Because she's more likely to survive, then aren't you penalizing the responsible motorist? If instead you say the biker without...
Wait, that's interesting.
Into. If you say the biker with the helmet because she's more likely to survive, then aren't you penalizing the responsible motorist? If instead you say the biker without the helmet because he's acting irresponsibly, then you've gone way beyond the initial design principle about minimizing harm, and the robot car is now meting out street justice. The ethical considerations get more complicated here. In both of our scenarios, the underlying design is functioning as a targeting algorithm of sorts. In other words, it's systematically favoring or discriminating against a certain type of object to crash into. And the owners of the target vehicles will suffer the negative consequences of this algorithm through no fault of their own. Our new technologies are opening up many other novel ethical dilemmas. For instance, if you had to choose between a car that would always save as many lives as possible in an accident, or one that would save you at any cost, which would you buy?
The one that saves
what
you at
happens
any
if
cost?
the cars start analyzing and factoring in the passengers of the cars and the particulars of their lives?
I mean, dude, imagine if all the cars in a pileup are all designed to save you, and everybody starts fucking bumper carring. One car crashes, bang, wham, bang, fuck this, bang, dude.
Could it be the case that a random decision is still better than a predetermined one designed to minimize harm? And who should be making all of these decisions anyhow? Programmers? Companies? Governments? Reality may not play out exactly like our thought experiments, but that's not the point. They're designed to isolate and stress test our intuitions on ethics, just like science experiments do for the physical world. Spotting these moral hairpin turns now will help us maneuver the unfamiliar road of technology ethics and allow us to cruise confidently and conscientiously into our brave new future.
Conscientiously, yes, absolutely, man. Took the words right out of my mouth, man. Conscientiously, yes, yes. See, that was kind of interesting, no?